the small business success for a PR professional turned podcaster in the great state of Maine, this mom is highlighting local businesses with an eye toward expansion.
Hello and welcome to the Makers of Maine podcast.
Makers of Maine is a podcast that I launched in June of this year, where it talks about stories of Maine makers, whether that be cut and sew, woodworking, metalwork, photography, musicians. There's a lot of craft in this state and a lot of small businesses. About 99.2% of Maine businesses are small. So this podcast truly reflects our small business economy, as well as the unique stories that each of these makers have. Makers in Maine really just establishes makers of all sorts, and that's the purpose of this podcast. I started this business in June 2020, and this was sort of the perfect time to do that because we were in the midst of the pandemic. Some businesses here were either failing and just hanging on by a thread, or some have been very successful. And I wanted to showcase stories reflecting the real-time news that's going on right now with the pandemic. So I'm the host, and I also handle a lot of the researching of the guests, as well as arranging all of the interviews. When the pandemic started, I was honestly scared. And when I found that, I wasn't going to have much work, I was like, okay, I might as well be a stay-at-home mom. But then I wanted to give back to the community. So that's what really prompted this podcast to get to where it is now. I find that it will continue to grow as people get to know these lovely makers and support them even more during these challenging times. I see the future of my business really focusing more on the podcast. I find that not only do I want to touch on makers in this great state of Maine, I also want to expand it out to makers in New England, makers of the USA. Being a mom and juggling business and my personal life and my kids, I would say it is a very challenging time. I am in my closet trying to record while my kids are playing in the other room. I'm also trying to cook dinner and making sure that, emails get sent out appropriately to all my guests and making sure logistically everything's set up appropriately. So I feel as though that, yes, it is a challenge with the juggling, but at the same time, I want my kids to know that I helped build a community. I helped build a community to voice through makers, because I hope one day that they will become makers a part of this great state.
Well, congrats to what she's got going there in Maine. Wow.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.